Hello everybody and welcome to Coffee and Content, and I realize I went live a minute earlier than I actually anticipated, but that's okay, that's fine. It's Sunday morning here in Australia. I've got my coffee here, I will be sipping it as we go forward, but the thing that I'm attempting to do today is actually see if I can make a video intro in DaVinci Resolve. And on the one hand, I'm sure this should be very straightforward, but on the other hand, I haven't really conceptualized the thing that I want to have happen here. So it's one of those things that we're going to make it up as we go along a little bit, as is our custom. Hello to Chantel. I hope you're having a great Sunday. I hope you were able to put that chair together without too many problems. I must admit, I've had many times in my life where I've become completely unstuck putting together furniture, and I found that stream a little stressful. So I might go back and just watch the ending of it to see, hopefully, that it all came together in the end. But I tell people I have many skills, but assembling furniture, using Allen keys, all that stuff is just not my jam. So anyway, we're going to try and wrangle a bit of DaVinci Resolve today, but I am going to have a sip of coffee before we get started. Ah, that's good coffee. Okay, let's get stuck in. And I must admit, today I'm probably less prepared than usual, which is saying something because I'm never really prepared for these streams. But what we're gonna do, let's head over to DaVinci Resolve. Let's start a new project. And I'm gonna try and do this for the video and live streaming show. Chantel is telling me that the chair is all together with no issues other than my small space and busted back slowing me down. Oh, sorry to hear about your back. I must admit, as I reached my late 30s, I definitely started experiencing some muscular issues, and like in the last week, they've actually been pretty good, but for the most part, it's really difficult. And Chantel will appreciate this, but as an Australian, but there was one year just before Christmas, I went on to Kmart online and I just bought every massage tool that they had available and every foam roller and muscle roller and all of the things just to try to have a better relationship, because you know, I'm in front of this computer a lot, and you know, and I do have a sit-stand desk. I can adjust all of the things, but the thing is, I find I have to keep adjusting everything all of the time because my body just gets too used to one thing or another, and then I've got to switch it up again, which is incredibly annoying, but it is what it is. And apparently Chantel has a good track record of building things. Okay, that's awesome. All right, so today, like, I am going to be winging this so hard, and it's Saeed's fault. He suggested this one, although I had been thinking about it, and I kind of did have a design in mind, but the more I think about it, the more I don't think it's going to work. But anyway, let's just go into our project settings first of all. So the timeline is now 30 frames per second, and I just want to call this out in case anybody else is wrangling with this too, because I think it defaulted to 24, 25 previously. And the thing I ultimately discovered was that if I make a change, I can go up here, I can go to the default preset, and I can just say update preset. And then I can say update it, and that way it'll default to that all the time. I did actually create another a default over here, which I can load at any time, but again, for the moment, that should suffice, and that hasn't really changed anything, so I'll just cancel out of there. Yes, aging is a problem. I'm not gonna lie. It is definitely a problem. Okay, so what we're gonna attempt to do right now, we've got a little bit of music that goes with this intro, so I'm just gonna see if I can drag it straight onto the timeline. I probably can. I'm actually in the edit, in the cut mode, which is probably not where I want to be, but let's just come over here. Let's go to our media pool. Okay, that didn't do anything at all. So let me try and bring this over to the... Oh no, there we go. I think it's trying to do something. No? Alright, let me try that again. Okay, brilliant. So I've got my music. If I drag this onto my timeline, we will see that it goes for a certain amount of period. So really, probably just around here is where we want to cut it off. So I might even just use the blade tool, cut that off. Yeah, I might even do that. In fact, I realize you won't be able to hear this on the stream, but I'm just going to play this little portion back so I can hear what's going on here. It's very loud in my headphones, but that's okay. I think that works pretty well. All right, so again, I know there will be people coming for me in the comments because there always are. There will be people coming in and saying, hey, you don't need to do this in Fusion. But the thing is, I like Fusion, and Fusion is kind of where my brain can operate from at the moment. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my effects options, and let's see if we can grab something from here. What I want, and in fact, let's search for it because I'm never really sure where these things are organized. So Fusion, okay. Okay, so Fusion composition. So I'm dragging this out onto the timeline. This is where I'm going to play. And again, I know you all have feelings about, because the point that people have made, and I totally appreciate that this is literally true, is that I could design this entire video from this edit screen. I really could. And in some ways it would probably be easier, but because I'm trying to actually learn Fusion, and I really haven't spent any time in the edit screen. I made one YouTube short the other day. So it's a brave new world. And I realize I'm kind of blocking some of the background here. So let me just zoom out a little bit. Hello, Walter Strong the Third from Real Men Rising, who's saying good evening. Hey, how you doing? Hope everything's going well. So we've got our music here for the intro. We've got the Fusion composition. Again, if I select on this one and I'll go to the Fusion tab, this is where all the magic's going to happen for me. And again, I know you can do other things in other places, but let's not stress about that today. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in a background. Okay. That's interesting. But actually, that's not bad because I can still use that. So I guess probably because I had the media out selected. Normally what I would do is I'd have this deselected and I would just go backgrounds. And then I would just sort of drag the backgrounds over here and bring it in. And the first thing, and let me just change the viewer so I just see the media out. Normally, for all the other live streaming assets that I've done previously, things like this, for example, which will cut my head off, but essentially this animated banner, and even the like and subscribe animation, for those, I've always started with a transparent background. And to do that, all I really needed to do was actually bring the alpha down to 0 and make sure I export in a format like QuickTime that supports the transparency. Today, I'm not even going to worry about that too much. I'm going to actually start with a white background. I know that's kooky and bizarre. If you've seen any of the other streams, you won't know why I'm doing that, but just indulge me for the moment. And I think what we will do, I want to kind of bring in different colors, and I just want to have different... I just really want the text, video, and live streaming show to pop on the screen and be a little bit animated for today. I do have bigger ambitions to do this in a different way, but I think for today, let's just explore doing this. So at the moment, I've just got my backgrounds coming out to the media out, so that's what we're seeing up here. Let's actually, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to open PowerPoint just because, and people may not know this about me, but PowerPoint is actually the place I design video thumbnails. I know that sounds weird. I know a lot of you won't be here for that, but it is literally true. In fact, give me a second and I'll just show you this really quickly. So You know, I design all my video thumbnails in here and sort of other animations as well, other titles and graphics and stuff. So the only reason I'm really opening this up today is because I want to grab some of these colors just so I know what they are. And again, if I go into, I probably locked this down a little bit too much now, but that's okay. So if I go to the selection panel, I want to go... Oh, that's right. So I haven't, yeah, okay, that's fine. So what I need to do is if I go to the design tab and I go to format backgrounds, I'll see the color here and I can go more colors and I'll go to custom and I'll copy this hex code and we'll move this out of the way. All right, so let's bring in another background. Again, not like that. I'll deselect first and then I'll bring in the backgrounds. And what I want to do is I want to take well, actually, I guess I can do that now. Yeah, so if I go here, I'm going to drag the output from the backgrounds to backgrounds 1, and that's going to create a merge for me. So if I go back into backgrounds, and I might right click and go to rename, which is F2 if you're playing along at home, and we'll say, I'll call it yellow background, yellow BG, that'll do. Again, these names are only for my reference, but what I want to do is I'm going to come into the color panel. I'm going to paste this color in here. All right. So the thing, and if you're completely new to DaVinci and Fusion in particular, the thing about this is that the things that we add later on down this path essentially will be on top. So it's a good thing to keep in mind because it doesn't have layers in the way that maybe if we went back to the edit tab, for example, you could just have video, 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 and the one on top would be, the one at the top of that list would be on top of things in terms of the layers. So what we're going to do, let's come in and grab our text plus node and we'll drag it out here. And again, I'm just going to bring it into the merge. Actually, I don't want to do that, do I? What I want to do is I kind of want to create another merge, which normally would just happen for me, but maybe it's not going to happen for me today. So what I will do, let's grab a merge, throw it here. And it's done that for me already, which is awesome. Going to drag this down here and connect this up. Again, we're not seeing anything because I haven't added any text yet. So let's go in here and I'll write video. Open Sans is actually the font that I tend to use for a lot of things, including the video and live streaming show. So I think that's okay. What we will do though is we're gonna make this a lot larger. And I think the thing that's a little bit confusing about Fusion is when you see these numbers, they will be relative. So if I change this to even like 1, you'll see that fills the entire screen, which may or may not be what you want. So you kind of need to think in terms of almost, you know, percentages. So if I wanted to maybe only fill half the screen, if I go 0.5, that was the wrong, that was the tracking. So let me just undo that. Make sure I'm actually updating the size. So 0.5, you'll see that'll bring it down and we'll see it clearly here. And I kind of, at this point, I'm kind of wondering, because a part of me actually thinks 1 would be pretty cool. Because I kind of want it to animate in from the side and then go forward. So for the moment, let's just leave it like that. But what we might need to do is actually arrange the, sort of reposition it a little bit. And again, this is the point at which I have to concede that I don't really know what I'm doing and I'm making so much of this up as I go along. But I think what actually might be helpful here is that if I bring in a transform, and again, I'll put this here, I'm going to have the output go to the transform. And then the output of the transform can go into the merge, hopefully, if I'm doing this correctly, which I may not be. Okay, maybe I'm not. All right. Well, this is classic John not really understanding what he's doing. So, all right. So let's rethink that a little bit, and that's fine. That's kind of the point of these, is just so that I can learn in real time, and I make all the mistakes, and I'm okay with that. All right, let's just try this again. So if I go out of the text text node to the transform, and then out of here to here. Yep. There we go. I have no idea why it worked that time and not earlier, but that's fine. So what we will do is I kind of want to animate the transform now. So we could potentially leave this till later, but I think at the moment, in fact, let's animate a few different things here. So if I come in and again, it's probably a good idea if you sort of sketch some of your ideas out ahead of time, because I'm really making this up as I go along. But what we will do, let's think about our positioning of the transform. So again, we can sort of we can adjust the settings and the controls on here. So probably what I want to do, X and Y. So if I go 1 for our Y component, you'll see that it'll go up. So let's 0.5 that again. And if I go here, that brings that over there. Okay, that's interesting. So I guess the other thing I need to be mindful of is how this actually relates to the music. So I'm just going to play this through, but again, I'm conscious of the fact you won't be able to hear what I'm doing. So just watch me react to the music, potentially. Although I'm actually, okay, that's a whole other thing. I'm not actually hearing the music here. So let me drag the music onto the timeline, onto my work area, if I can do that, which I don't know if I can. And it doesn't look like I can. So the other thing that might be useful at this point, and let me drag this over to the screen, you can actually see, is if I go control space, I get a whole bunch of different tools that pop up here, and I can actually search for this list. And again, I'm a complete noob when it comes to a lot of this stuff. So what I want to do is I just want to see if I've got something that relates to audio, specifically, or sounds, because I'm sure there is something. I did see a tutorial video on this somewhere. Let's just see if we can figure it out together. La la la. So many options. In fact, let me just search for sounds. No, for media. Media in, media out. Okay, let me try a media in. I have a weird feeling that might help. But again, just make sure I deselect that. We'll try that again. So control space, move this over to the screen. You can actually see it, and we'll go media in. Add. There we go. All right, cool, cool. That's a really interesting one, and I don't personally have any B-roll footage that I want to incorporate into this particular project, and in some ways I would be really tempted to go back to the edits page to bring that in, although presumably this media in would also do the trick. So again, I'm just curious if I can just drag this on here, because I have a weird feeling I may not be able to, and I'm sure I've seen, here we go. So there is so I guess if you did have this, you could actually bring it in via media in, and I will show you how you can sort of bring this stuff in at a different time. In fact, you know, it's such a great question. Let me just see if I've got some random clip I can bring in here. Won't be particularly relevant to this particular project, but I think that's okay. I think as a learning resource, it's probably a good idea. So I'm gonna go. I went on a walk yesterday. I took some footage. I must admit, I don't love phone footage. I know people are like, film on your phone. I don't love the way this turned out, but again, for today's purposes, I think it'll be okay. So if I were to just drag this video in here somewhere, See, that works in a way that this doesn't, and I'm not really sure why. Maybe, I don't know if it doesn't support the wave format or if I need something different. But essentially, if I had this video here and maybe I wanted to merge this in, I can bring it in here. Not there. Here. So now I've got this footage of nature, and the problem is at the moment that will just start wherever it wants to start. But if I go to my keyframes, I guess the other thing, before I do that actually, let me just come in here and go F2 on my keyboard, which is kind of under my desk. So I'll say video footage. So just make it a little bit easier for me to see. So now, if I go back to my keyframes, you'll see that the video footage actually doesn't last the entire duration of this. So, you know, potentially by about this point down here, it'll be done. So if I wanted to bring this in at a specific frame, so let's imagine that I want to bring it in here. I can literally sort of come in here and just drag it in. And this is a great place for sort of showing and hiding different components as part of a Fusion composition. But again, if you're working predominantly with video and with text, you probably would be really well served just to do it from the Edit tab. Like you could literally just bring these things in and drag and drop them. But again, much of the point of this is just that I want to wrangle Fusion. So what I can do now, and this is also the point at which we might, you know, this is just the point at which we sort of show and hide things. So if I go into, maybe I don't want to bring my yellow background in straight away. Maybe I want it to come in, I don't know, frame 67. Maybe I want the video text to come in maybe a little bit after that. And again, you'll see that it's actually, the text and the transform are together because they are actually linked in that fashion. So now if I sort of go back to the beginning and I hit play, we'll see the white backgrounds, the yellow will come in, and then the text, and then eventually, because I haven't timed this particularly well, you'll see the video. And again, like I said, I don't really have any video for this particular project, so I'm not really going to include it here. And if you were just editing any old video and you want to try it in DaVinci, I would probably hang out in the Edit tab a little bit. So yeah, I mean, that's conceptually how you would do it. But if we go, let's just stop this, turn off the keyframes. I might get rid of the video footage for the moment. I am kind of annoyed that I can't bring the music in because that would be really incredibly useful for me at this point in time. And it's bizarre that I can't bring it in. In fact, what I'm going to do, let's see if we can cheat a little bit. I'm going to open up Shutter Encoder, which is my new favorite piece of software. And if you didn't see yesterday's video and live streaming show, go and check that out because I think it will be quite instructive. But if I go to where I've got this little bit of music that we use on the show, I'm going to drag and drop this over into Shutter Encoder. And I'm just going to see if I can turn this into a video. So let's just see if I can start this as a video. And it'll be a video with no visuals, but I think that might be okay here. I just want to see if this is going to work. And Shutter Encoder is this program that can convert audio and video, but it can also download videos from other websites and cut them and make animated GIFs and things. And it's literally free and it is available for both Windows and Mac. So if you haven't, this is honestly my favorite thing at the moment. I'm so obsessed with this. And the reason I became aware of this in the first place is just because I watched another tutorial video on making, I think it was for the stingers for OBS. And they kind of recommended after you exported the QuickTime video that you actually sort of converted it to WebM format. And it literally takes it from about, if you've got a 4-second uncompressed QuickTime video, it's 1.15 gigabytes. And it literally brings it down to kilobytes in size. And that may or may not be the most appropriate format to be using. I genuinely don't know. But it is a little bit odd. So I don't know. Like, normally this doesn't take quite as long, so there's possibly a chance that I've already broken this. But let's just give it a moment. I'll take another sip of coffee while I'm waiting for this. All right, I don't know if this is actually going to work, and it was just a bit of a gamble to start with at the moment. So I might just leave that doing its thing in the background. But one other thing I did want to mention, because I can literally hear them through my headphones right now, and I'll be really curious to hear if you can hear them as well. But I kind of asked people about their unlikely content creation problems and things that just people around you will never understand. And for me, it's the fact that we're coming into the Australian summer, and that's a problem for a few different reasons. First of all, the cicadas have emerged from the ground, and they're so freaking loud. I genuinely don't know if you can hear that. I'm hoping you can't hear that. I think the Shure SM7B is quiet enough that we can probably get away with that. But they're so freaking loud. I can't get over how loud they are this year. So already that's kind of a problem from an audio video perspective. But also just the fact that it's going to be insanely hot. And while I do have access to fans and air conditioning and stuff, I don't want those sort of running while I'm live or recording, because again, that adds to the noise and the sound. So, you know, it is one of those things that I do need to be a little bit mindful of that. And even the fact that I've got these lights glaring at me through the screen is also potentially a problem as well. All right, I kind of moved that to a different window temporarily, and I think it's glitching on me, but I don't think that's going to give me much joy. So let's just abandon that for the moment. Let's just imagine what this might look like. And I guess the thing is, if I go back to the edit tab, I can probably play through this and get a sense of where I want these things to happen anyway. So I definitely want the video stuff to come in a little bit sooner than it does. So 13 seconds in, I think, is probably where I want the second segment. So let's go back to our Fusion composition. Let's actually go to our keyframes, because again, I think that's just a little bit too long. So if I probably want to come in maybe, I don't know, 15 seconds. Let's try that. And admittedly here, I'm literally just saying, hey, bring this onto the stage at this point. We haven't even got to the point of animating all of this stuff yet. So let's leave our keyframes for a second. Let's try and animate some of this stuff. So what we do, and this is all keyframe animation in Fusion, is if I go to my transform, and what I can do, let's just make sure we're at the beginning here. And we can adjust any of these properties. And what happens is that if I go to the transform here, and I X size, Y size, aspect. Okay, cool. All right. So if I sort of work out where this is coming in, so it's coming in about here, and I want to actually adjust these properties, so I can go the center or the pivot. I'm going to try and animate these properties here. So this is the center X and the center Y. Let's bring this in a little bit, because I think about the 30 point is where it actually animates. And again, this is kind of annoying. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually just bring back the video to the beginning in terms of the keyframes. And let's just come in here. So this is the point. I kind of want this to be off screen before we go too much further. So In fact, I can do it from this 20 point. And let's say we can adjust these. Again, these are relative values. I know this is kind of confusing, but hopefully that's done what I think it's done. In fact, I don't think it has actually. I think I've got the wrong way around. So 0. Oh no, that's, well, yeah, okay. So if we go back to 0.5, and that sort of centers it in the screen. But what I actually want to do is I want to try either 1 or -1. Okay, so I want a value here, but it's probably going to be about 4. So there, I've actually changed that. So essentially, this will be off screen until I tell it otherwise. Although I say that, it looks like at this 20 point, it comes back in anyway. So let's, from here, let's just see what that looks like. Let's hit play. Okay, so it's just coming on there. It's a transform. I'm not really sure where I adjusted that, but let me just try it again. So -4 up here. Or actually, I suppose +4 in the opposite direction. Okay, let's try that. All right, brilliant. So let's imagine, I think about the 30, in fact, let's just put in a number here to go to that point exactly. From here, we kind of want to adjust this so that it is, I don't know, let's try 1. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, and now if I go back to the beginning, hit play, that didn't do anything at all. It didn't do anything useful anyway. All right, I've clearly not had enough coffee or don't really know what I'm doing, which is kind of par for the course for these streams, if I'm being honest. But let's go in and let's just, in fact, let me just see if I can get rid of that. All right, so if I go 1, all right. This is the joy of these streams, is that I often crash and burn in real time. So, you know, there's not a lot I'm going to be able to do about this. So let me just forgive me. But I'm sure I was able to do this with things besides text. So I don't know if text works in a different mysterious way, but let's just try this again. So what I really want to do, let's say, I don't know, just this 150 mark. So 150 keyframes in. Let's actually just go -3. All right. So now we start there. It scrolls off the screen. Brilliant. That's all I really wanted to do. That said, if we go to our spline, and again, I really need to get in the habit of actually renaming this. So let me just go F2 and I will say video text transform. So now if I go to the spline editor, and at the moment I've really only edited, I've only animated certain properties here. So there's not a lot to actually be seen here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of those and I'm going to hit the S key on my keyboard, which sort of gives us these anchors. So I could sort of make this come in sort of faster, or you know, I can drag these in and out and also change the curves of them. So maybe even that might be fun. So if I go play, there's actually that second keyframe in there, which I didn't really intend to do, but it is kind of fun because it looks like it glitches a little bit. Because it sort of, it starts and then it goes back to where it was and then it sort of moves off. Which is, you know, again, I'm literally making this up as I go along, so I don't have too many expectations. But let's just imagine that maybe that's what we want from that animation. Let me come in and again, I'm not going to make sure I don't select anything. I'm going to go back into my PowerPoint and I'm going to grab a different color. I guess the thing that I kind of realized recently looking at my own YouTube channel was I have very particular branding colors. And I like my brands. I think it works well, but the problem I was finding is that just all my thumbnails look the same now. It's like it's kind of a problem. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna go in and grab this hex code for this. That's not the right color. Just gotta find where I've actually got my color, because I've got a whole bunch of million different things in here. Probably not that one. No, it is that one. Okay, cool. All right, let me just grab this shape fill, more colors, grab the hex code. I realize you can't see the screen, but just indulge me. All right, so let's go in and let's change this color. First of all, going to paste in that HTML color, which is a lovely shade of blue. Again, I'm going to bring in some more text. And I'm sure that would be potentially fine. But again, I just want to make sure I know that I'm doing this the way that I would normally do this. So I'm going to go F2 to rename, and I'll say blue BG for backgrounds. We're going to make this and. So this is literally just an ampersand. Although I think we're going to have to make it infinitely larger. And I should say too, I haven't connected this to the node, so we can't see it yet. So I don't really know how large that is, but we'll figure that out in a second. But again, while we're here, go F2 and I'll say ampersand text. And again, I think what would be worthwhile at this point is to put a transform in so we can adjust all of this. So let's go down and add our transform. And I will, let's get in the habit of using the keyboard shortcuts. So F2, ampersand text transform. All right, let's connect all this up together so we can see what's happening. So out of this one into here, I think. Out of this one to here. Out of this one to here, I think. Maybe. Have I done that right? I may not have. Okay, so I guess the thing I can already tell is that I've connected these up differently to what's over there. So let me just remove these for a second. I mean, the text transform actually looks pretty good. So I want to come from here to the yellow connection. There we go. So we can see that already. And I want to come here. That's the blue one. So that's not like that. Let me just disconnect that. So if I bring that over here, does that do it? I've clearly misunderstood something. Oh, that's right. I didn't actually. Yeah. Okay. I had the background as its own thing. So that in itself can just sit here. I can drag that over here. Okay. Cool. All right. I know that's not the most exciting thing in the world. And again, I know there are going to be people out there screaming at the screen going, that's not the way to do it. But again, this is just how I'm rolling today. So if you don't like it, feel free to not watch it. Okay. So I guess first of all, we've got our yellow, then we move into the blue. Again, until I sort of change the keyframes, we won't see this at different points. So I think what I kind of want to do is I want to make sure that the blue doesn't come in until about the 150 mark. And again, I could probably zoom into this to see it a little bit more clearly. Hi, Wind here. Hello from Blue Sky, saying you got this. I don't know if I've got this, but to be honest, it doesn't really matter because these Sunday streams, and I say Sunday because it's Sunday here in Australia, it probably may not be where you are. But it's just to have a little bit of fun, just to learn a little bit. And I can probably, like, I guess the thing I can potentially do is zoom in on this a little bit. But what I want to do is I kind of want to make sure that this starts at around the 150 mark. Cool. And we'll drag both of those into the 150 mark as well. And it's just with the keyframes. So if I go back to the beginning now, we've got our white, we've got our yellow, it sort of glitches. And then eventually, and I think 150 might be a little bit too late for this, but I can adjust this later on. And then we see the blue backgrounds. and the ampersand. And apparently it's 6 p.m. Saturday in Texas. So that's the joy of time zones. And it's funny, I had someone a couple of weeks ago see one of my events that I had scheduled on LinkedIn, and they said, this sounds really interesting, but is it really happening at 9:30 p.m. on a Friday night? And I'm like, well, I mean, it might be depending on where you are in the world, because time zones are definitely a thing. And it's funny how many people don't understand that time zones are a thing. And I guess sometimes the content you consume is very hyper localized to your area, and maybe there you don't need to know that it's, you know, a certain time in GMT or whatever. But anyway, that's fine. I don't know where I was going with all of that, but I guess the other thing too, so let's go and find out, and again, I'm getting lazy, but I kind of love the ability to have the keyframe selected here. So what I might do here, and I could probably just do this on the merge node, but I think let's bring in a transform just for the hell of it. I feel like people get mad at me when I do things on the merge node, so let's bring this in. And again, I mean, the great thing about this now is because I've kind of got a few examples of things actually working properly, I can see and be reminded that actually this needs to go from here, I think, to here. Okay, cool. And hashtag wind here says too many of my clients are UK, so I get time zone pains. Haha. Yes, the struggle is real, and like people are always inviting me to things, and I'm like, as much as I'd love to support you in real time, that's like 4 a.m. my time, and I'm an old man. I definitely need my sleep. All right, so now we've got our transform here, over here rather. So let me rename this so I know what the hell it is. Blue BG transform. So what I would like to do is I'd actually like this blue screen to sort of come in from the bottom. So again, let's turn on our animation. Let's just hit that little keyframe up here. And I think it should be the Y one, but again, I'm not sure if it's sort of up or down, so we'll figure that out. So, okay, so positive number is moving it up. So what I want to do is I want to move it down, and I'm thinking -2 should probably take it off the screen. Brilliant. Okay, and let's come in a little bit further down. I don't know, maybe 155 would suffice. Let's do that, and let's literally bring this back to 0.5. And now, if we go back, we can hit play. We can start with the white. We bring on the yellow. It glitches a little bit. Then we come to our yellow. You'll see that it comes up. It does come up very, very quickly. And I kind of think that maybe that isn't the place that we want to do it. So if I right-click up on this keyframe, I mean, I imagine it might be possible to physically... In fact, you know, where it would be physical... I don't know. I was going to say I might be able to move this here, but I don't think I can actually. Maybe I could do it with the spline editor, but let's not worry about it too much. I'm literally just going to come into this point and I'm going to right click and I'm just going to go, maybe I've already done it. So this is the start point. This is the other point. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to go remove key and let's actually just, I don't know, let's make it 160. And here, let's go back to 0.5. And again, let's just see if that's a little bit more subtle. I mean, it's still pretty quick, but I think that's okay. I think that's okay. All right, so that's all right. And let's actually animate our ampersand. So probably from the 150 point, I'm going to actually, and let's do this on the transform. That's why we had a transform. So here, I'm going to actually move this off the screen. And again, I think we'll do that with the X this time. And we'll go maybe -1. And maybe if I go 160, and we'll go back to 0.5. And while I'm here, I think we should animate the size of this as well. I think let's make it bigger. Let's make it really unsubtle. We do love a good ampersand. Yes, we do. Okay. So again, I'm literally just playing around. So let's just see what this looks like. Hit play. The white, we got the glitchy video start. Eventually we come onto our blue screen. That actually, that comes in very, very quickly. And I think it actually comes in the opposite direction to what I imagined. Yeah, so it's, yeah, okay. So I kind of stuffed that up, but that's all right. Let's go back to 150. So let's actually go just +1. In fact, +2 might be better. And I guess the other thing is I have changed the size on this. So let's animate the size here and let's go back to 1. So we're actually animating two properties simultaneously. So let's see what that looks like. Again, it may not be the most elegant thing in the world, but that's okay. Let's go hit play. The video glitches, then it goes, and eventually it'll come onto screen. The blue will come in. It's still insanely quick. So let's go back here. Let's, I would love to, in fact, what I might do, let's just add another keyframe. And in a perfect world, I would time this to the music, and for various reasons, I haven't been able to do this today. But I'm going to add this keyframe here with both these properties, and I'm going to go back to this one in between, and I'm literally just going to get rid of it if I can, which I think I should be able to. So let's go right click, no. Actually, so it was 155, I think. No, 160. Okay, there we go. So let's right click and let's remove these keyframes on both the size and the positioning. Oh, let's just try that again. And there we go. It's a little bit more subtle. And again, I haven't really conceptualized this in any great detail. So, you know, it's one of those things that I'm just having a play. Maybe we'll do a more sophisticated version of this on next week's stream. We'll figure it out. Hello, Stefan. Thank you so much for joining us. Wind here. I'm awful with timing to music. I got to sharpen that skill. Yeah, I mean, I literally can't bring in the music to this fusion composition. And I don't really understand why, because I have seen other people do this. And I kind of wondered if it wasn't the format. And maybe what I will do later is I will attempt to just make a video with this music. And I'll just have it in the background and I'll change the blend to 0, so I can't see the video, but I can potentially hear the video. And again, I'm not even really sure. I haven't done that before, so I'm not really sure if that will work, but it'll be worth trying. So anyway, like right now, I'm just playing with text and colors and transforms and sort of animation. And I guess the thing is, we got that glitchy thing there. I think a lot of this stuff should happen earlier, and we could potentially change that as well. In fact, although the other thing I'm thinking too is what might genuinely be a lot of fun is and I probably need to make a mental note of where these things change. So 150 to 190. So if I go, so 150, 190. So if I go 160, and let's actually click on the ampersand here. And and again, I realize we can't even really see. So yeah, okay. I need to think about that for a second. So we don't see that until around 181. Okay. And then ultimately 90. So What I think might be fun is if we go 181. Let's animate this property. In fact, that's fine. We'll leave that as is. And that's the font family, essentially. And we could even animate the color as well and the size, but let's not worry too much about that. Let's go 184. Let's do this again. And let's go 186. And let's do this again. And 188. And let's do this again as well. And then ultimately, I think 190 is where it is actually centralized. So we'll do that one last time. And now let's actually go back. And it would be good if I could zoom in on that. And I don't know, maybe if I... Anyway, let's not worry about that too much. But what I will do, let's go back to not that one, but this one here. It would have been so helpful had I actually made note of what those numbers were, but that's okay. What we'll do, let's go in and pick different fonts. Let's actually have the font change sort of midway through. And again, if you're doing this for real, this would probably be a much more elegant exercise, but we're just playing today. Who cares? And let's go in until we find the next one. So yeah, so 184 was another one. So let's go in and again, I don't know. That's Times New Roman. It's surprisingly ornate. So we come in here, we change. And let's find one other font. Let's go up the list a little bit. Oh, what was that really blocky one? That looked interesting. There we go. All right. And there's a really good chance this is going to be really, really quick and confusing and disorientating. But I think just as a bit of fun, let's give it a go. Let's hit that play button. So we see the video. The blue should come in any second now. You'll see that that's changing quite a bit. And again, we haven't animated any further, but that's fine. So let's... In fact, I think it's like just before the blue. Let's just revisit that for a second. And again, we could change the timings of all of this if we wanted to. But yeah, I love the idea of that. I don't know that that is actually the greatest implementation, but that's fine. But I think the thing I want to call out is that we can actually animate any of these properties that have this diamond symbol beside them. And, you know, there's different properties and different layers. And I realize my head is probably blocking some of this, but that's okay. Just trust me on this one. So we've got shading, we've got images, we've got all kinds of settings that we can animate. And that in itself can be really, really fun. But I guess the other thing too is if we go to our spline editor, and let's deselect everything except maybe our ampersand text and our ampersand transform. We'll click on this button here, which is zoom to fit. And that'll sort of show us all those different animations. You're a lower third today. Maybe if the font changed per the beats or per X number of frames, that would be a cool idea. Yeah, potentially. And again, like it probably, and I'm sure there's a way of actually getting the music into this composition so I can hear it. But I haven't sorted that out yet. But and Winty writes, your head isn't blocking anything important. You're a lower third today. The problem is the other, like in this view, and like normally I would stop streaming and I'd come back to this view and like I'd play my promo for my podcast, for example, and it would pop up on the screen underneath. The problem is if I do that while I'm actually screen sharing, it will sort of take me out almost entirely. But it also covers me with a picture of myself. So you're still getting a bit of John there either way. But so essentially what I can do, and I'll just select all of these different keyframes. And I'm just going to hit the S key. And again, it gives me those anchors. So I can I can adjust the animation curves of this. And again, this is something you probably need to play with. So, you know, whether it's speeding up or slowing down. And Wind here thinks that's hilarious. But so Wind here says, my most recent edit had sound playing in Fusion, but it's choppy. Yeah. And to be honest, like I only really want the music in Fusion so I can time these animations. Because normally I think what I'd be inclined to do is ultimately export the Fusion composition with the music that's here. And I mean, I can play this, but the way I'm sharing this screen in OBS, you won't be able to hear the music, even though I can. But I can sort of play this, and I can see what's happening. And eventually, that'll pop up. There's an extra ampersand in there. I don't know what that's in aid of. I'll need to figure that out. That is really weird. That actually plays completely differently to how it is in Fusion. So if I go, actually, it's probably because I just fooled around with these keyframes. So maybe I can undo that. Anywho, maybe I've stuffed that up, but that's okay. We're only learning at the moment. But yeah, so I guess the point of this is that, oh no, it is there. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't notice it. It is sort of playing there. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I have actually seen people bring in audio as a media in the way that, you know, I can literally drag a video on here and I can bring that in here. And the thing about the audio is apparently you don't need to necessarily connect it to the media out to hear it. But for whatever reason, and I do have my music here in a waveform, and maybe wave is just not a maybe just not a great way of doing that. I don't know. It literally, like, nothing happens when I drag it on there. But anyway, we'll figure that out. Like I said, I'm not a DaVinci Resolve expert. I'm literally just trying to teach myself in real time. And it's probably always a bit of a shocker, but I've got my coffee and I'm having a go and I'm having so much fun just hanging out with people in the chat, which is really, really awesome. But yeah, so like ultimately, I think if I were to do this, and again, I'm only playing today because I don't have a great sense of what I want this to look like, but I literally have the music here and I've got the animation going in the background. I know you can't hear the music. But actually, like, this isn't terrible. Like, I know it's not the most sophisticated thing in the world, and I kind of was imagining something different. But I mean, all the building blocks are there. I just need to figure out that the way to bring them together. And I kind of I had a very specific thing in mind where I had 3 bars of gradients that animate onto the screen, and then a couple of different rectangular shapes with a rounded edge come in, and the live and the video and live streaming words would actually pop up on the screen, and then I'd have cutouts of me and my co-host animating to the screen too. And I think the only reason this morning I thought about that was live streaming is a really long word, and I just don't think it would have worked in the way that I was imagining it. Like I needed to sort of stretch it down, or maybe even break it up into a few different lines. Because I mean, that ultimately would be, and we're kind of running out of time, and I don't want this stream to go longer than an hour. So we'll wrap up shortly. But essentially what I will do is sort of bring in, you know, in the same way that we sort of start with the video, I kind of want the live streaming to be the next part of this. So again, I don't know if I'll keep playing with this today or if I'll just hold off until next week's stream, but don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you happen to be watching this. And you know, you can definitely check out the other content on the channel at Learn Live Streaming on YouTube if you're interested in that. I know I am going out to various places, so it's generally the place that I like to hang out. But I do kind of love the way that a lot of this works. Turn off the screen share for a second. I just want to check in with the comments. Yeah, so it'd be nice if Fusion sound was toggleable via a hotkey. And Wind here is saying that the edit history is a good way to fix those. I'm not really familiar with that one. So where would I find that? Please tell me more about that. I'd love to hear about that. I'm unaware of that feature. I will find that. I will figure that out. That's probably one of the docs. Edit history. I will go looking for that. I'm sure it's here somewhere. I will figure that out later, but that's all right. I appreciate that feedback. And the thing is, sometimes, and I've been using Fusion for like 3 or 4 weeks at this point. It's been on my to-do list for years, and I've only just started playing with it. And I know I'm a complete noob, and I'm not pretending to be anything else. But occasionally people will jump into the comments and like, you're doing it wrong. And I'm like, yeah, I probably am, but I'm having a go. Yeah, and I think that's fair. So I think the audio I think the audio probably should be in the edit page or Fairlight as well. I love that you're learning live. I wonder how it'd look if you were to use the text as a mask to show off other stuff behind it. Okay, it's really funny you should mention that, because let me just... And I know I said I wasn't going to go longer than an hour, but I'm evidently going longer than an hour, but that's fine. I'm just really excited to share stuff that I'm learning. So I'm literally going to open up a second version of OBS to show you what I made last time on this particular stream. Hopefully it will load without too many problems. Maybe it won't. I do have a lot of software running simultaneously now. In fact, what I might do, I'm going to close out of Fusion just in case there's a little bit too much going on here. So let me just show you this really quickly, because this is OBS Studio. And the thing that I made last time was I have this John Lacey logo, which is, embroidered on my shirt and in various pieces of branding. But if I actually created this stinger with my logo, and, this is just an example of how this might work. So if I go from the bush scene to John only, you'll see that my logo comes in as white, and then it inverts, and the background is solid, and then it moves out again. And that was another project I did in Fusion. Again, that was a classic example where someone was like, "You could have done that in 5 seconds in the edit video," and I'm like, "Yeah, in the edit tab," and it's probably true, but I'm having fun, so that's the most important thing. So again. And that's where that transparency of QuickTime comes into play. Again, I did convert that to a WebM file via Shutter Encoder, so it would be a much smaller file. But I love the idea of that. And I actually haven't brought that into my main streaming setup just yet, but I do want to bring that in very shortly. And again, it's a classic example of somewhere you could also incorporate a little bit of audio, sound effects, music, whatever. And it could be really, really engaging. So I might just wrap things up here, but again, it's great to have had your company today. And whether Fusion is for you or not, I really want to encourage you to go and find something that you might be passionate about and learn it. You don't necessarily need to learn out loud in the way that I do on these streams, but if you want to, that's certainly an option. If you do, and this is kind of a promo for my podcast, but even if you're not interested in the podcast, you can head over to my website, which is johnlacey.com. And there are articles about OBS and other things there as well, and social links. I do tend to hang out on YouTube and LinkedIn the most, so come and find me if you want to. But have a great week, have a great weekend, and I will talk to you again very, very soon.